Hello you lovely lot, welcome back to the Max Goodwin YouTube channel and another Nottingham Forest match preview where today we're going to be profiling Nottingham Forest's away trip to Goodison Park to take on a struggling Everton side under Frank Lampard. So of course if you're new around here, the format of these videos goes as follows. We start with initial discussion on the side, giving a bit of context to their season so far, followed by a dissection of the stats behind the team, and then some talk on their tactics and what we can expect on the day on the field, followed by my prediction for the scoreline. So if you enjoy this kind of stuff, don't forget to drop a like on this video, subscribe to the channel and ring that notification bell so you don't miss a single video. With that being said, let's start talking about Frank Lampard's Everton. As we usually do, we'll be starting by giving a bit of context to this Everton side, and I must say the last season was very disappointing for the Toffees, starting the campaign out with former Liverpool manager Rafa Benitez. They ended up making a profit in terms of the signings that they made compared against the players that they sold, but the signings that they did make, they flattered to deceive and ended the season in 16th, narrowly missing relegation. Benitez would take charge of just 22 matches, winning just 13 of them and winning just one of his last 13 league matches in charge and conceding 31 goals in the process. And after a brief spell in charge with caretaker manager Duncan Ferguson, Frank Lampard would take charge of the final 14 league games, winning 6 of them, adding some stability to the side and eventually staving off relegation. But if we fast forward to the beginning of this season, it really hasn't started well, and that rot from the last couple of seasons has continued, losing both of their opening games, 1-0 to Chelsea and 2-1 to Villa respectively. Not really looking very good in either games compared to their opposition, especially against Villa last time out. Despite the close scoreline, it really was a one-sided affair. So with that being said, let's talk a bit more about the stats and dissect what's actually so bad about this Everton side at the moment. Going forward, Everton scored the 13th most goals in the Premier League last season, 14th for expected goals generated, and 15th for shots per 90 minutes. All of this would suggest that you would expect them to be around a mid-table sort of attack, and a big part of the reason as to why their attack was actually fairly good last season was Richarlison carrying them through the majority of last campaign. The Brazilian scored 10 goals and assisted 5. He was their highest scorer, the most assists and the most shots per 90 minutes in the league for Everton, and overall his departure is really felt at the club, having seen very little reinforcement in that position since his departure to join Tottenham earlier this summer. And with Dominic Calvert-Lewin expected to be out for the first few weeks of the season as well, they really lack firepower up front, and I think they're really going to struggle. Defensively, they were probably a bit worse as well. They conceded the 16th most goals in the Premier League last season, conceded the 14th most according to expected goals, and conceded the 13th most shots in the Premier League last campaign. This is poorer than their goal scoring and would likely suggest that they are probably a better attacking side than they are defensively, although the implementation of Lampard's tactics seems to have sort of tightened them up ever so slightly compared to when they were playing under Rafa at the beginning of the season. And this sort of compiles them into a shot negative side, which is never a good sign of a team facing relegation, and the team who last season had the 4th lowest expected goal difference over the course of the campaign. They were torrid last season. That's basically what we're saying here, and there's not really a huge amount of quality in that squad that can get them out of this kind of situation. For me, the biggest issue for Everton was the amount of goals that they conceded last season, and this may be controversial to say this. I do think Jordan Pickford has slightly a little bit of burden to carry on that one. I don't think he was the worst player in the squad, but I definitely think he wasn't as amazing as a lot of people are saying. But let's put that into a little bit of perspective. He had the 5th worst save percentage in the Premier League of goalkeepers to have played a significant amount of minutes in the Premier League. And when you look at his post-shot expected goals, this is how you determine whether a keeper's actually prevented goals. He didn't prevent any either, which means the shots that he was facing weren't really that spectacular, all things considered. Now, I'm not saying he is the sole reason as to why Everton are slowly declining towards relegation, but I don't think he should be held in as high regard as he has been over the last 18 months, because personally for me, I don't think he's been that good when you look at the numbers. In terms of a player to watch, it's actually really hard. Richarlison would have been that man had he not gone to Tottenham a couple of weeks ago. Calvert-Lewin would have been the man had he not been injured for the first few weeks of the season. So instead, I've gone for their £50 million rated man, Anthony Gordon, as I suppose, the player to watch for Everton. But let's talk about the positives. He is extremely active defensively, ranking consistently in the top 5% of defensive actions for attacking midfielders and Europe when compared amongst his compatriots in Europe, which is very decent and suggests a player who comes back and contributes quite actively defensively, which in a system where your back's against the wall quite often is very important. And in terms of the things he excels at, he's pretty good at taking set pieces. I think he takes the majority of Everton's set pieces. He's good at winning fouls in and around the box, which obviously when you take set pieces is very useful to have. He's efficient at getting shots on target. He doesn't take a lot of shots, but largely they tend to test the goalkeeper. And he's actually quite a solid dribbler as well. He's a good ball carrier, nothing spectacular, but very solid for Premier League level. Overall, I'm really worried about Everton this season, and I don't like to say that. I have a soft spot for them. I think they're a club like Villa, like Newcastle, like Forest that should be in the upper echelons of the Premier League despite their current league positioning, and they're going to be without their main man, Dominic Calvert-Lewin, up front. I do think defensively there'll be a lot more of a difficult task for a lot of teams this season. I do rate the signing of Connor Cody and James Tarkowski. I do think it offers them a lot more defensive coverage, especially playing a back three, which I think both of them probably would work quite well in. With all that being said, let's talk a little bit more about the tactics in depth and talk about what we can expect from Everton as Forest fans on the day. On the board here we have Everton lined up here in the blue, and predominantly under Frank Lampard they have chosen to shape up in something reminiscent of a 3-4-3 that defensively looks something closer to a 5-4-1, getting everyone behind the ball, having that number 9 sort of occupying and pressing central areas, but predominantly getting nice and tight, lots of compactness in the side, looking to defend deep and break out on the counter-attack. So as a counter-attacking unit, Everton are actually quite good under Frank Lampard. I think a big part of this is the fact that they don't have very technical midfielders. So when they do get the ball in the back line, they are usually looking to sort of ping the ball out into the wide areas to their attacking players rather than play it through the lines. If you look at long balls in the Premier League last season, Everton ranked quite highly amongst Premier League sides. And if you look at things like attack speed and passes per attacking sequence, Everton ranked as a very quick attacking side and also a team that didn't string too many passes together when they attack, which suggests they attack through quick, long passes into the forward line where they then look to be direct in the final third. Of course, a big part of this would ideally be Dominic Calvert-Lewin leading the line for Everton. His ability to receive the ball into feet, bring other forwards into play, or turn his man using that incredible amount of strength he's got, and his ability in the air to win flick-ons for his fellow attackers. Ideally, I'm sure Lampard would be playing him at that number 9, although he doesn't seem to have been fit for the last year. So instead, it's likely going to be Anthony Gordon playing in that number 9 slot. Not as physically a presence as Dominic Calvert-Lewin, but he is able to receive the ball, drift into wide areas and carry it towards the final third. That's probably his strongest asset in this side. Not much of a goal threat, but good at getting the ball into the final third to maybe more potent attacking players like Demarai Gray and Andros Townsend. And their midfield's very industrious, in fairness. Doucouré and Iwobi have started in those two midfield positions for the first 2 games of this season. In Iwobi, you have a really solid defensive presence who can carry the ball towards the final third, a really good box-to-box option, and probably much more naturally a number 8 fit than a wide player. And in Doucouré, you have someone who's fantastic when you do get into these areas, when you force the opposition into a more defensive situation like this. He's really good at making these sort of late runs into the box. He was very good at doing it at Watford to score a lot of goals, making these late third man runs into the box, being unmarked as he come in and just finishing it with these sort of simple little tap-ins where he's found the space to make the run. And he does the same very much for Everton, or will look to do the same. And I think if there is something that's going to be the undoing of Forest, it could be these third man runs from Doucouré, and it's important that Forest take a look at it and just make sure there's someone picking up his runs when he makes them. Now, in terms of how Forest can deal with this Everton side, I think a big part of it is going to end up being the shape that Everton take up. They're going to try and be deep, compact and narrow in their system under Lampard and break using the wide spaces, and this compact shape requires a player from Forest who can find those game-breaking passes, who can progress the play and can basically just sort of string things together in the midfield. And I think this is the perfect opportunity to integrate Rumi Freuler into the team. I think over Mangala and over O'Brien, he's much better at doing this. He'll want the ball into feet. He'll want to be getting into these more advanced positions where he can create chances, where he can play the ball into the box. He can get the shot assist, if you will. And I think it probably lines up quite well as suiting Freuler's game this match, more so than Mangala or O'Brien or Yates in this system. A more general observation is going to be that their press under Frank Lampard, Everton's press that being, has actually been quite good for the large part during his tenure. It's something he's quite good at coaching, and I would imagine that we're going to need to be quite solid on the ball. We're going to see a lot of possession in this match, or certainly a lot more than we did in our opening 2 games of the season, and it's going to be important when they do try to press to regain possession that we are solid on the ball, technically solid, and not making the kind of mistakes that maybe a team not used to playing possession football would make. The final thing I kind of want to talk about is Connor Cody. I think he's going to be a big weapon for them. His ability to carry the ball out from defence and find these sort of game-splitting long passes out from the back towards forward plays is very important, and I would like to see Jesse Lingard just being a little bit tighter to Cody perhaps than we would normally be on centre-backs in this game, because he's going to want to carry the ball out and play these sort of long passes that he's been doing for Wolves over the years. So I'd just like to see Lingard be a bit tighter, block off the runs that he's making, and just generally be a nuisance for the former Wolves man. So I guess it's time for me to predict the scoreline for this match. I think I'm going to go for a 2-0 win for the Reds on the day. I may be being slightly disrespectful to Everton here, because I do think some of the business they've done in the market this summer has been decent, but generally they haven't improved their squad from this season to the next season, and I think that's a big issue as to why they're going to struggle this season. I don't think they have the quality in the final third to cause us the kind of problems that West Ham and Newcastle were able to do, so I do think we'll be good for the clean sheet, especially with the form that Hendo's been in the first couple of games of the season. And I think defensively, whilst they are probably improved on last season, they're still not that good, and I do back Lingard, Awoniyi, Brennan, Freuler potentially, or Dennis if they were to be making their debut in this match to get a goal and potentially come out with a 2-0 win. Of course though, let me know what you think the scoreline is going to be for the match against Everton in the comment section down below. I have made my case for a 2-0 win for the Reds, but of course let me know your personal score predictions, and whilst you're down there, don't forget to drop a like on this video, subscribe to the channel and ring the notification bell so you don't miss the match previews or the last few player profiles before the end of the transfer window. With that being said, thank you so much for watching, Reds. Enjoy your weekend. I will catch you later.